when you grew up the way that we grew up, what kind of fun are you allowed to have? Like, what is fun? Like, I'm going to be 33 in January. It's like, I'm still learning how to have fun and, like, what that means for me, you know? And it has been largely because I was able to access gender-affirming care. I was telling my partner last night. He was like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I was like, "I have a podcast interview."
I've been telling people all week, like, I have an interview, so I won't be available.
I forgot what I was. Oh, what
yeah. There's going to be a lot of that through this episode.
What I was going to say.
It's funny because I give my co-host so much shit for, like, laughing. I'm like, you got to stop laughing so much. It's so annoying to edit out. And here we are just, like, giggling all over the place. It's disgusting.
Oops, sorry.
Anyway.
But, I mean, this is, like, the raw, unfiltered first time we've had a conversation in 6 years.
I don't even know where the hell you are right now.
This has been a thing. I've been out of the US for almost 15 years. And even though I've been in New Zealand full time since 2019, no one knows where I am. Just because I was, like, traveling, like, everywhere all the time for such an extended period of time, like full nomad life. And now I live an extremely exotic life here in New Zealand, tidying my hobbit hole and eating second breakfast.
Oh my god, you're living the dream life. Well, okay, first of all, what is your name and your pronouns before I forget?
My name is Sid, and I'm a they, them.
I listened to our old episode so you didn't have to.
Thank you.
Misgendering happening all over the place. But, like, we didn't know.
We didn't know.
We were 26, dude. We were so little. And we recorded that episode a full year before COVID. March 2019 was when our episode came out.
There's so much lore behind that interview.
I know.
I was living in this shitty little share house that had a literal roach infestation. It was infected with roaches.
Oh my god.
There were so many roach nests. It was horrible. And my little studio where we recorded that interview was like my only safe place. It was like the one room that was mine because this was a very small house that had been divided in two. So it was kind of like the kitchen's in the same room as the living room, as almost the bedroom kind of situation. It was a terrible place to live. And I was like neck deep in an abusive relationship. It was...
Oh my god, yeah. Don't worry. I want to talk about that. I had to make myself a little outline because I knew I would forget certain things. I also took some notes from our interview that I thought were really interesting. Obviously, we were 26. I wrote 26, holy shit. I had just moved to Seattle and I was drinking at the time. In fact, I'm pretty sure I was like drinking during that interview. I used to do it all the time. And then I got sober that summer and went 4 years and then relapsed. And I'm now like 2 years sober or something like that. I don't even know. Anyway, as you've said, you were in a roach. Jesus Christ.
There was a roast infection.
Oh, yeah, and I was working at Starbucks. Speaking of roasts.
Oh, you worked at Starbucks for ages.
For 7 years. That was the last year when I talked to you last. So, like, where the fuck were you aside from the roaches? I can also say what we talked about on that episode briefly. We talked about, like, our religious upbringing and, like, the pain of leaving that community. And we talked about younger siblings. We talked about your ghost writing business. And you were with a partner that we didn't really talk about at all in that episode.
I'm really glad we didn't, because I think it would probably be, like, way too triggering to hear myself say affectionate things about a partner that was actually pretty shitty.
I mean, that's another thing we have in common. I was with a guy for 3 years before, like, I realized I was queer and we broke up, but we stayed roommates and then he raped me and all this stuff. But, like, I mentioned him on the podcast all the time, like, affectionately. And, like, there's a few times where he was on the podcast. So, like, You're in good company.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. It's been really interesting, even though we haven't, like, kept in regular communication. It's been really interesting that we've had very, very similar things happen in our lives, and we come from very, very similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
We've been through so many of the same things at very similar times. It's like you're the only person, like, I really honestly only remember you and one other person from those blogging days, you know?
Homeschool blogger.
The school blogger. I was explaining the concept to someone and I was like, this just sounds so cringe.
So the last time we talked about not being able to find our blogs. I did find some on the Wayback Machine a while back, but others I couldn't because I couldn't fucking remember the URLs. I couldn't remember our usernames or anything, but like it's back there.
I don't remember mine at all.
It was all Elvish.
Yeah.
Like mine was all Elvish.
Yours was. That's the main thing that I remember about you.
Yeah, my name was Tenuvial.
I do remember that.
As Tenuvial before you knew me as whoever I am.
What name do you go by now?
Christina is what I use for like writing in the podcast, but Chris is what I prefer. Yeah.
So what would you like me to call you?
Chris is fine.
Chris, okay.
I was talking to Lauren about this last week. Like I'm at this awkward stage where like at first in my queer journey, I was like, you know, she, they is fine. Christina, Chris is fine. And now I'm at a point where like she feels kind of weird, but it's not like offensive, but like give it a few like months and it might be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I am really curious to hear about your experiences because I feel like you're a little ahead of me in terms of that stuff.
Yeah, it seems like it was, and I don't know if this is validating or not, but I've kind of, ever since I started unpacking my own gender and, you know, fully went into the use of they, them pronouns, I have always in my head regarded you as a they, them. You just like,
that's what a lot of people say.
You were just never giving me she vibes, you know?
Well, and that's why I think it just felt so unnatural, even when I was like a little girl. And even saying like a little girl, it's like, that's not me. Like,
it's weird that you say that because, you know, I mean, most people don't like have an issue with saying, oh, when I was a little girl, when I was a little boy, that type thing. And it's weird, like, looking back at how I've always sort of regarded myself in gender neutral ways, even when I was neck deep in the cult, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I never referred to myself as a little girl. I always referred to myself as when I was little. And there's part of that, it's like, was that just, you know, what people around me were doing and that's why I did it? Or did I just kind of like pick up on something in the back of my mind that was like, no, that doesn't sound right? Because I remember my very first boyfriend, I was like 16. And there was one time that we were like outside and we were just kind of hanging out and like looking at nature as we used to do way back in the day. And he was like, do you think of yourself as like a girl or a woman? Because I mean, I was like in my late teen years. No, I wasn't 16. I think I was like 17, maybe 18. And I was like, I don't know, like neither of those feels right. I was like lady and I was like, definitely not lady. I think about this conversation all the time because it just really stuck in my head of being like, none of these words sound right. Like, they all feel kind of gross, you know?
Well, and added to that dysphoria is like the whole traditional gender roles within the church that we were raised with. Like, and being oldest daughters at the time, like, I'm still recovering from it. I'm still deconstructing it. Like, to be honest, I still talk about it in therapy every single week.
Yeah. Same.
Love that for us.
Yeah, I know. Look at us taking care of ourselves, having therapy and everything. My therapist has something that she calls ancient memories, which I love the way that sounds because it makes me feel like I'm in Zelda.
Actually, the first thing you said when I asked you to introduce yourself on the last episode was like, I'm 97.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't, but that's so dumb.
We were so dumb.
Truly.
But it was better than I was expecting also. I was like, you had some really good things to say. I have a quote I wrote down for later.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, I don't remember what you were talking about before.
Oh, I was talking about ancient memories. I mean, that's just what she calls memories that are like from so long ago, and they're so buried down that you kind of don't realize that things are connected to them. It's something that has to be unearthed, and I've had a lot of those ancient memories unearthed in our digging and digging and digging, and I've had some pretty intense revelations over the last few months. I had one night that I call my dark night of the soul that was kind of the catalyst for everything, but I've been just really like hunkering down and keeping focused on myself and digging into my own brain and really trying to I don't want to say get over, because that's not really how it works, but I think process and somehow integrate what I learn, even if it's painful, into my life to make me a little more well-rounded, hopefully, is the goal.
I couldn't have articulated it so well, but I kind of feel that way too. The therapist that I had before I moved here to Richmond, I had her for 3 years during my crisis, and she was like, sometimes we can talk about like the reason you are the way you are till the cows come home. Like, we can talk about your childhood, but like you might have to accept that there might not be a reason. It just happened, and all you can do is like figure out what to do next. How are you going to let this? Well, not let this, but you know what I mean? How's it going to affect you? How are you going to process it? How are you going to carry it with you? Integrate is a good word.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. And it's also really interesting because, so I'm working my way through The Artist's Way, that book.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, really good. I'm on week 8 now. Have you done it?
I did like up to week 5.
I am on week 8. One of the exercises was imagine if you could go back and have an ideal childhood, what would that look like? And it was a little too painful for me to like outline exactly what I would have wanted. It was a little easier as a starting point for future contemplation on this, because it's an interesting question, to say what problems I now see with my childhood as an adult, with the knowledge and experience that I have now, what I wish had not happened. And maybe that seems like kind of a negative way of looking at it, but it was a lot easier for me to identify what I would have wanted changed.
Yeah.
And how just kind of the ideal change that would have been, rather than being like, oh, I wake up and my birds are singing and...
Yeah, like, I don't know how it's supposed to be because I didn't have it. Like, how can you describe something you never had? Like,
yeah.
That's like asking in therapy, like, what do you want to talk about today? I hate that question. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we write fiction, or at least used to, is because that was the only way that we could kind of think about another way of living, another way of experiencing life. But it's good that you seem to be so at one and aware of your childhood, because I've realized that I've blocked out so many things.
Oh, me too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's actually an issue because, like, I'm trying to write a memoir, but I'm really struggling with the earlier childhood years because I don't remember a ton.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you've seen Shiny Happy People, the documentary about Bill Gothard and the Duggars and all that. I rewatched it this week for some reason, and it triggered a lot of memories, but it also triggered me. Like, it was so bad. So that's the risk of unearthing those memories. It's like, it's validating and it's enlightening, but also it's really painful and / harmful even. And like, how do you balance that as someone who makes art about your experiences, or like processes your experiences through art?
Yeah.
It's a rhetorical question. I don't expect you to have the answer.
Good, because I was like, I haven't actually done a whole lot of writing or art in many, many years. Probably the last time that I was really doing anything was our last interview. That is something that, like, through this book, The Artist's Way, and also in therapy, and also just in my own, like, ruminating, I've realized that the creative part of me that I used to be so united with after I left my ex, it just disappeared. It just kind of faded into this blackout part of my brain. It comes in waves. And there have been times throughout the last like 6 or 7 years that, I have gone through spurts of creativity in whatever form that might be. But I think that because creativity has always been an escape and a way of like, I guess just figuring out what's going on inside, like deep inside,
Yeah.
I think that it kind of just faded away because I was in survival mode for so long. And so then a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when I finally got out of survival mode and my life finally started to stabilize and I got New Zealand residency, and this is a whole long story that I don't think we have time for.
I remember reading your sporadic updates on social media.
Yeah, I'm a permanent resident now, but like even just getting a work visa was like pulling teeth. And so I didn't have capacity. I was freshly traumatized. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and creating and writing was just not something that was safe because it would have opened up, if your brain blacks something out, it's protecting you until it feels safe enough to resurface. Or at least that's how I think of it. But once I got out of that survival mode and I wasn't in danger anymore, it was just so used to being buried, like, oh, we're still surviving. And that's something that I didn't expect to be so impacted by trauma of various kinds, but it was impacted. And so that's, I'm really trying to tap back into that aspect of myself, not only just to help with processing all of that and maybe tapping into some more of those ancient memories, but, also just as expression and as fun.
Yeah.
It's weird how, I think especially when you grew up the way that we did, like, how do you have fun? Like, what is fun?
Fun is homeschool blogger.
Heck yeah.
And NaNoWriMo.
Oh, God!
And Lord of the Rings marathons. Learning fucking Elvish was fun.
I still tell people about you. I'm like, I know someone who can speak Elvish.
I can't anymore. Not to let you down or anything.
I bet it would come back to you.
Under a set of very specific circumstances, yes.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But obviously only share what you're comfortable with, but I personally don't know anything about what happened really after we talked, except for like what you've shared on social media. So I'm just like dying for the tea.
Oh, well, I'm ready to give it. Where's the kettle? So I, at the time, had been with my ex for like, I guess 5 years, 4.5 years. So it was beginning of 2019 when we did that interview. Right.
Right, it was March.
Yeah. So in August, September, October of that year, my grandma passed away suddenly, and I flew back to the US the next day. I didn't have enough money to fly back to New Zealand, so I had to stay in the US for a while and make money so I could get back to New Zealand because we had to move, and my ex said he couldn't pack the house himself. The reason I didn't have any money is because during the course of that entire relationship, he would not let me have a job. The only job I was allowed to have was we were running a visual effects education business together, and I basically made everything happen. He was just the face of it.
I remember
he would
that.
keep me up all night working for him, managing the website, doing all the marketing, promotion. He never paid at all. Like, he covered the rent. It was just a typical case with a narcissist of, keeping you isolated, whether it's literally in a remote village in mainland China or somewhere in New Zealand without a car or a place to stay. Like, when I first arrived in New Zealand in 2015, he had not sorted out a place for me to stay, and it was still cold when I got here, and he put me in a tent.
I remember the tent.
Now, I loved the tent. I had to love the tent. There was no other option. There were the ducks, and the ducks were really great, and just being out in nature is very my vibe. But being out in nature with no source of heat or power is kind of not the vibe, So anyway, long story short, I make it back to New Zealand. I help him pack the house because he's too busy working on the business. And then I don't have anywhere to stay. So he put me on a bus to go stay with this random writing client of mine who lived like 4.5 hours away. I'd never met them. So I count end of November as when I technically left him. But the real date, which I call my freedom day, is January 10th because he knew that it was over. There was a whole bunch of horrible stuff that involved like posting photos of me and shit-talking me online, and that not only just affected personal connections, but also a multitude of professional connections, and it also looked bad on him as well. So that's when I was like, you suck, dude. I'm not going to entertain this anymore. And then, when a narcissist realizes that they don't have power over you, that you're not going to be a life juice battery for them anymore, they start to freak out and they start to try every possible way to get you back in their claws, like saying absolutely everything that it takes, to keep you close. Things fell apart with the person who was the writing client, and I met this person who was a really, really beautiful person, and we ended up traveling together for several weeks. But he came and he picked me up for a birthday trip, quote, quote, which in the first 5 minutes, there was a bottle of sleeping pills in the front seat of the car, and he said that he was addicted to them. And I was like, get me out of here! But I was too worried to tell him that I was leaving because I didn't know how he would react. I didn't know if I was in physical danger.
Right.
So, yeah, he took us to an Airbnb where we spent 2 nights, and the first day I tried to act like everything was normal. He didn't seem to notice that I had a backpack in the back seat that had quite a bit of stuff in it that I wasn't opening, and it wasn't a big backpack. It was not a hiking backpack. It was like slightly bigger than one you would take with you to university or something. And the second night, I told him I was leaving, and he flipped his shit and sat at the desk working on business stuff while I spread my stuff out all over the floor of this Airbnb and was crying and like frantically packing my backpack. And the next day, he dropped me off at the house of someone that I had never met in real life, that I had met on an app.
Oh my God.
Because I was trying to like meet people because he wouldn't let us leave the house unless it was to the grocery store. So I had no friends, but I had this app and I met this one person, and he like dumped me out on the side of the road by her house with just a backpack. I didn't have anything else. My entire life was reduced to one backpack.
Holy shit. And this was January of 2020?
January of 2020. So I ended up traveling and sleeping in a tent with this person that I'd met while I was living with the writing client at a campground also.
Okay, moving up.
Yeah, moving up. And I had a toilet, which was great. I met so many incredible people over the next few months, just living a full backpacker life. And that seems like probably the last thing that I would have needed in an extremely traumatic situation. Oh, he also made me pay him $1,000, so...
Why? For what?
After I told him that I was done with him, he transferred me $1,000 to, like, support me. And I was like, I don't want your money. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. And so then, before he dumped me out on the side of the road, he was like, by the way, can you pay me that money back? I need to, like, pay for food for my kids or something.
Oh, Lord, there are kids?
Yep, I got it right here. So I had no money. I had no friends. While I was living on the road, hitchhiking with people, sleeping in tents, meeting so many different types of people who were just enjoying the summer in New Zealand. And this is something that also really ties into how we were raised, is I realized that most people are inherently good, which is something, is completely the opposite of what we were taught growing up. That people are naturally bad, 100% of them, and the only thing that makes you good is somehow linked to your faith in the one true creator, you know?
Yeah. I still struggle with that a lot. The belief that people, especially myself, are bad, like generally bad. And yeah, seeing everyone as kind of a potential threat.
Yeah.
Which I hate living like that.
Yeah, it really wears on your brain.
It must have been terrifying at first.
It was terrifying pretty much most of the way through, especially when COVID hit and New Zealand was going into full lockdown. I was working in a vineyard at the time, and I was like, there's not going to be much work for us. What are we going to do? And so a friend I was living with at the time, we caught buses from South Island. We were down in Christchurch, and we went all the way up midway to the North Island, which was another whole conundrum because the recruitment agency that we were moving there to work for ended up being a fake recruitment agency that stuck us in a dirty apartment. And it was just absolutely disgusting. They barely gave us pillows. They barely gave us sheets. Like, it was a whole thing. And that's how I had to spend lockdown before finally finding a job at an apple pack house. I was looking for bruised apples and throwing them into the juicer. I don't know. I really actually loved working in the vineyard. It was so rewarding. And just, again, like, after the shitty 6 years that I was with my ex, just being outside and feeling free, and like, I did laundry for a hotel, I cleaned the bathrooms at a boys' school, like, I was doing whatever I possibly could to keep a roof over my head, and that's exactly what I needed. I needed to be in situations where I was meeting lots of people, where I had something to do, I had a project, I needed to keep moving, and so the vineyard was great because it was a share house with like 20 other people, 3 of us in one bedroom, you know, bunk beds type situation, and most of them were French, I don't really know why, and like, there were a few Germans too, and
all right,
it was like spending all day and seeing the sunrise every morning, you know, like, that just really showed me that there was a whole life that, had I stayed, I would have been missing.
When you were talking about creativity earlier, the word identity came to mind. And I think, like, for me, and maybe for you too, like, I put my identity in being like a creative person, like a techie person. Like, I was working in like web development and marketing for so many years, and I was miserable. And like, I almost died like at my last job. And now, you know, since then I've been working like odd jobs here and there. I worked at a grocery store for a while, and like currently I'm trying to get a job with animals because I don't know, it's crazy that I used to care so much about like working in my field. Like, what am I trying to prove to the world and to myself? Or what was I trying to prove? I don't know if you can relate to that at all, but I think when you strip away all that bullshit and you're just like doing stuff with your hands, like outside, helping people, even if it's something like cleaning bathrooms, you know, it does feel good. It's good for you mentally.
Yeah, it was really weird separating myself from all of the stuff that I had been trying to do. You know, I was trying to really grow a ghostwriting business. I was trying to grow a creative coaching business. And, you know, all of these things I've been trying so hard to do, and was just on social media all the time trying to like force myself to create this certain type of material. And, you know, I didn't know who I was outside of that. That was the only option that I thought that I had. And knowing what I know now, it was also forced. I mean, if you force something, you're not being authentic, right? You're not, you know, really noticing the core of who you are so much. You're trying to portray
but also
this
like
image.
You're limited in what you can see and know about yourself too. Like in the interview we had in 2019, you seemed very happy with who you were, but I also know that a ton has changed since then. And would you go back and say that you were being like stupid or whatever? Maybe, because that's just who we are, but like we didn't know also.
Yeah, and that's something that's like, how are people so ignorant these days, you know, like how could you not have known, and that type of thing. It's like, Because here's the thing, like, I didn't even know that being trans was a thing until, I was in Hong Kong at the time, so I was probably like 20 years old.
This is perfect because I wanted to talk about the gender stuff.
People always ask, how did you not know what it was? Like, you had the internet, and it's like, but how do you know what to research if you don't know what to research?
If you've had information withheld from you, or even, misinformation about things pounded into you from an early age.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about quantum physics, but, like, how do I know what specific parts to research if I don't even know they exist, you know? Ugh, yeah. I moved to Hong Kong in 2012, and I went back in 2013 because I'd gotten accepted to art school, and it was there that I started learning that lesbians are nice people. They can be nice people, and they're, you know, I'm not making generalizations, you know, that like other people that I had previously demonized or was taught that they're evil people, they're just normal people. And I was like, wait a minute. And I remember I had gone to a friend's house, but they weren't home. So I just sat on the rooftop of their building, and I was just texting my friend. And I was like, I don't think that, like, using she, her pronouns really fits with me. It doesn't really feel like who I am. And I was like, but he doesn't really feel right either. And my friend was like, I'll call you he all day long if that's what makes you feel good. Like, I'll call you whatever you want to be called. And it just was the first time that I felt validated ever.
Yeah, it's like you didn't know what you were missing before, and all of a sudden it fits, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, I was still completely, like, my whole life was working for the church, and they were paying my rent, and, you know, I was spending all my time there while I wasn't working, like, 4 different jobs and a full-time art student. And the year after that I met my ex, and I left the church, which of course demonized him to my blood family because they were thinking he was the evil person that made me leave the church. The world got to me.
I'm rolling my eyes so hard right now. Okay, so I want to read the quote that I wrote down from our last interview. So you said, it's painful to look back if you hold this bitterness and resentment against the person you used to be. And at the time, we were talking about our homeschool days when we were religious and like closed-minded and all that. And like I said in that interview, you seemed like you really knew and loved who you were. And so I'm just curious, all these years later, now you're like a different person from that. Well, first of all, I want to know how the fuck it even happened.
Which part?
Well, coming out as non-binary and like getting your operation and like all that's like, what's the timeline on that?
That's a great question. I think, so when I was sitting on the rooftop thinking about pronouns and thinking about like, I don't really feel like a woman. I was still in the church, and then my ex was weird because he was very like a lot of people would look at him and assume that he was gay because he was very in touch with his like feminine side, and he was very like outwardly, you know, trans accepting, like big ally, but behind closed doors he was extremely not that way at all. So that made it really difficult because I was with a partner who not only never asked me about it, even when I would post online about it, it was just like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Or maybe that's just Sid's online persona or something like that. I don't know. So it was actually 2019, I think, when someone used my pronouns audibly. One of my best friends, she lives in Chicago now, she was just joking around with me and she referred to me as they. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anyone use that because people just didn't notice or they didn't care or thought that it didn't apply to them. And it completely changed everything for me. That was when I started being like really, really open online, at least. You know, I was still on social media a lot back then. And people started to refer to me correctly, you know, new friends that I made on the internet and existing friends who were worth keeping around, a lot of whom I lost when I left my ex. But in terms of top surgery, it was something that I've always wanted that I didn't know existed probably until maybe around like 2019-ish as well. That was really this, I'm seeing through this conversation that 2019 was actually a very like pivotal year.
Yeah.
I would never have known that if we weren't talking right now. That's very interesting. And I have therapy on Monday, so I'm going to talk to her about that.
Goody.
But yeah, like I remember before I even went through puberty, I was after swim team and I was standing in the shower and I looked down and I was like genuinely sad because I was like, one day I'm not going to be able to see like my torso like this anymore. Maybe that's like a little too much information, but
not on this podcast.
Okay. But like that was a moment that I remember so clearly because just the genuine grief of that realization that one day I would have these things on my chest that I didn't want, that I didn't consent to. Like, it was just going to be there and there was nothing I can do about it. So I was actually supposed to have top surgery a year before I did. I had it in August of last year, so it's been just over a year now. But yeah, it was everything. It was everything. I flew to Thailand. I got the surgery. And then 4 days after surgery, I flew back to New Zealand. And then I was on a film set the next day. Don't do what I did. That was too much. That was a lot.
You heard it here first. That's too much.
It was too much. I actually have a revision booked for 2 weeks from now, which is exciting. It's just like very, very minor revision. And it's like, could I deal with this stuff? Yes, but I've already come this far and I would really like to go through the summer feeling more symmetrical. Like, honestly, you would never know what I'm getting revised unless I pointed it out. But like, it's for me, you know? And what I've realized is like, I deserve this. Like, I have fought so freaking hard just to survive. I am worth the money that I'm spending to feel at home in this physical body. You know, it's worth it.
I have so many thoughts. I mean, I've had similar feelings. Part of me is like, okay, is it the eating disorder or is it the religious trauma or like is how much of it is my real self? And that's one reason I always struggled with having boobs because of the like objectification.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was for me. And like all the women in my family have huge tits. And my mom recently got top surgery last year for completely different reasons. But I was so surprised by how, like, jealous I was and, like, how almost bitter I was. Because, like, oh, you know, we were body shamed growing up and now you just get to have the surgery of my dreams. So, like, it was really interesting. But, yeah, I haven't, like, even gone down that road, like, mentally yet. So it's, like, really interesting to hear how it went for you. And, like, when you say, like, you feel safe in your body afterwards, like, that resonates a lot, too. Yeah. And I'm just happy you made it work.
Yeah, and I got really, really nervous beforehand. I was like, this is a pretty big thing, and I've never known any other way of life. So is this the right decision? Am I going to regret this? And I was like, statistically, I'm not going to regret this. But when I woke up afterwards, speaking of which, I love anesthesia. Like,
oh yeah, it's pretty great.
How can I get more of that?
We'll talk afterwards.
Greatest nap of my whole life. When I woke up afterwards, I almost started crying. And I say almost because Capricorns don't cry. I just didn't realize how much grief and bitterness. I think honestly, like grief in the deepest sense of the word is something that I didn't realize that I was carrying with me. And when I woke up from anesthesia, it was like my mind had already adapted that these sources of grief are gone. That chapter of my life is over. And, you know, because I never knew any other way, I thought that I was happy before. I mean, obviously I knew that like these things, this chest that I used to have gave me like a lot of dysphoria, and I never wanted to leave the house. And if I did, it was only in baggy things. And, you know, just I was always hunched over to try to like, I mean, you know how it is. And then all of a sudden I wake up and my brain is like rejoicing. There's like a freaking party going on in my head that's like, it's done.
Oh my God. I almost want to cry listening to that.
I'm like, seriously, I've never experienced any other feeling like that ever. And just through the whole healing process and trying on my clothes, and like, it's so different. I was able to wear things for the first time. I was able to actually like enjoy putting on clothes that I'd dreamed of wearing, that were in my closet, you know, but that I had been too afraid to wear before, because I think a lot of it does go back to the purity culture of like, oh, well, you can't enunciate anything about your body, you know, you have to hide and make yourself look like just a flat being.
As small as possible.
As small as possible. And it's like, now all of a sudden I had this confidence, and I was so proud that I'd done this thing, and I wanted to wear tops that like showed my chest.
Fun. It becomes more about fun and
it was
like
more
expression.
Fun.
Like clothes are supposed to be for.
Exactly. And it's, you know, when you grew up the way that we grew up, what kind of fun are you allowed to have? Like, what is fun? Like, I'm gonna be 33 in January. It's like, I'm still learning how to have fun and like what that means for me, you know? And it has been largely because I was able to access gender affirming care. And it literally made me realize how freaking sad I was before. Had no zest for life. None. And thought I did. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's easy to put on the performance. Well, especially if you don't know what it looks like. You're like, this must be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm so happy for you. But with that said, I know no one's perfect. Like, how's your mental health these days? And like, what are you still working on?
I would say...
Or let me rephrase that. What's your most like pressing thing you're working on right now?
My most pressing thing that I'm working on, I would say a large theme over the last year for sure, the last several months for sure as well, has been my relationship to my blood family. I was going through a lot of like rough patches with them in our last interview, but I was still very much wanting... Yeah, like I wanted a relationship with them that was never going to happen.
You use the word disconnect a lot.
Yeah, there was definitely a disconnect then, and there is a disconnect now that has permanently impacted our relationship. I hadn't been back since my grandma passed away in 2019, but 2 years ago I went back for a couple months. My sister was graduating high school. We have a 9.5-year age gap. Or graduating university, sorry. And
we're old.
Yeah, I know. We're it's weird. Moving on. I was staying in the house I grew up in, where my parents still live, and my mom really wanted me to go to church to see everybody. Like, obviously, she has known for years since I left the church in Hong Kong that I'm not a churchy person anymore, but we've never really had a conversation about it. And she wanted me to just go see everyone. And I was like, if they want to see me so bad, why can't they come here? We live 4 minutes away from the church. I was like, I can't go. And she was like, why not? And I was like, that's a conversation that will take a lot longer than you standing in the living room and me shouting at you from the kitchen. So I took out my phone that night and I wrote down everything that I wanted to say to her, which was about gender, it was about sexuality, it was about the wounds that I've suffered from the church, and all of those things. And I read it to her the next day, and I was like, so this is why I'm not going to go to church, because why am I going to be around people who view me not only as a project, which is incredibly dehumanizing, but also view me as like capital W wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been through too much. I'm not going to willingly put myself in a situation that's going to endanger my health. Why am I going to go back into that environment that's left me with trauma? She didn't respond well, first of all. And I think that it's just too advanced. And I think that pretty much everyone on both sides of the family, aside from being homophobic, transphobic, blah, 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 you get the deal. It's too much for their brains to handle. Like, they're so closed off to this that they're not even willing to try to listen and even just absorb the information that I'm saying. It's just like fully shut off, you know?
Yeah.
No openness at all. And so I speak to my brother occasionally, but it's weird because it's like there hasn't been any communication about top surgery. There hasn't been any communication about any of that ever since. And I don't really initiate contact with anyone from my blood family. Very, very rarely. And, you know, of course, there is a part of me, that wounded child part, that's like, I want my mommy, you know, like I want my daddy. I want my parents to be parents to me. Like, if you're not gonna love a kid just because they turn out different than you shouldn't be having kids. So
you would think.
You'd think, right?
When Roe v. Wade got, you know, overturned, I was sat and sobbed in my car, and I made a voice note that was like, all I want to do right now is call my mom and like talk about this with her, but I know she's celebrating right now. Yeah. It's so fucking painful.
Yeah. I mean, I have a Kiwi mom whose cat, I mentioned that I'm keeping
We've come
at my
full
house,
circle.
Right? We have come full circle. And she's, funnily enough, she's actually from upstate New York. And she's a bit older.
Oh,
she was
okay.
like at Woodstock. She was at Woodstock.
Okay,
Yeah.
at first I thought you were talking about the cat.
No!
And I was like, wait,
cat.
what the? I was like, oh, the cat's from New York? Okay. And then you're like, she was at Woodstock. I was like, no, we're not talking about the cat. Jesus.
My bad.
No, it's all coming clear. That's hilarious. I mean, she sounds like a cool person.
She's very cool, and she's incredibly open-minded. She still doesn't really get my pronouns, but, I mean, she is almost 80, so she gets the rest of it. It's just that the pronouns are a bit hard for her to grasp, but she's very affirming and open-minded, and she's just an incredible mom to have, and I'm very thankful for her. But yeah, it's been a lot about chosen family as well, which, you know, is kind of cringe because I feel like it's one of those things that's been said too much, but for real.
When you experience it, it's different. Like, it is for real.
Yeah, like, you know the people who are family because they act like family should act. And it just is quite eye-opening, you know, because, like, I mentioned, you know, that I had one night that was the dark night of the soul, you know, a couple months ago.
Just one?
It was the worst one. It was the worst one. I had this realization that, like, it was something that I've never fully accepted, I think. How, on paper, my childhood and growing up was, like, perfect. Parents together, homeschooled, had a community support with the church. You know, I was on the swim team. I mean, it looked perfect, right?
Yeah.
It was actually deeply, deeply traumatic because it was all brainwashing. It was all indoctrination against probably what I would have chosen anyway. Like, there was no option. It was non-consensual indoctrination. Well, as if there's any, like, consensual indoctrination.
Well, right. I get what you mean, though. Like, and I think it's miraculous that we ended up where we are now, which, you know, obviously we still have a long way to go, but it's a miracle. Like, sometimes I look back at, like, who I was when we last talked, who I was, like, 5 years before that. I'm like, how the fuck did I get out?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, part of what you said in that interview was, like, I think at our core, like, the brainwashing does have an effect, but also there's who we are inside. And it's really hard to articulate, but that's who we've always have been to some extent.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know what it is in our blood that made us the ones to break the cycle, you know, like what do we have that was different than what anyone else has? And I can't answer that because there's no way to know.
It's still early also. Like, we are the oldest.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you kind of can recognize the signs of whether someone is likely to follow in our footsteps. And I am not seeing that in anyone in my family. I have one cousin. She's the exception. She's very open-minded and we do talk, and it's so nice to know that there is someone in my extended blood family who is similar, you know.
But they're not our responsibility either. Like, that's one thing about being an oldest sibling that I had to still struggle with a lot, is like the feeling of responsibility for everyone else.
Yeah, I still struggle with this. Probably like one of the biggest hurdles in my everyday life. And, you know, going through so much shit and being a lot better at advocating for myself and not tolerating any sort of disrespectful behavior or abuse, you know, and also not being affected by it anymore has been probably the greatest transformation that I've undergone in terms of like leveling up my mental health.
I'll say.
Yeah, but still feeling responsible, and that's a big one. And I think it's different when you are the oldest. It hits different.
Yeah, it does. And then you get to have your, like, crazy rebellious phase, like, in your 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I feel like I'm having, like, a second puberty. Like, I'm becoming, a teenager again, in a way I wasn't able to go through when I was an actual teenager.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah? What have you found out about yourself from this rebellious phase?
Oh, man. I think I'm in a lot of pain, and I did so much to like sweep that under the rug when I was a teenager to be the responsible one. Like, I didn't want any attention on me. It all exploded later in life, and I'm still struggling to get out of it. And so I think like realizing when I'm in pain and like going easy on myself and like letting myself do things like get spontaneous tattoos and like dye my hair at 1 a.m. and like you get what you can when you can. That's few and far between. And I know that's very vague, but I'm still figuring it out. I read my journal from 2010 the other day when I was on a missions trip in the Dominican Republic.
Whoa.
And I literally wrote, if I spent more time in God's word and less time in the pantry, maybe I wouldn't have this eating disorder. And like, it was so fucked up.
But I wrote stuff like that too.
Yeah, I just have to laugh about it. But like, it's honestly, that was not a normal childhood. Not even close.
No, because how old were you?
I was 17.
Oh my god.
I had just gotten out of the hospital for the first time, and I threw myself into like the God stuff. I was in it deep. I don't think I talk about it enough on the podcast because it's honestly cringy and it hurts too much.
Yeah, but also like there's
few people can relate also.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that can't relate, and it just it's very much like it sounds bad to people who can't relate. But it's very much like, if you know, you know. Yeah. You can't convey the pain to someone who's never experienced that. God, yeah. I burned all my journals from my church times. Ugh. I threw them in the fire.
I can't.
It was too much.
I'm writing my memoirs. I have to keep them. But that sounds cathartic as fuck.
Oh, it was great. It was great. I wouldn't say that I burned all of them, but there was a good chunk of pages that I ripped out and threw into the fire because it was too much. It was parts of myself that I didn't even want to remember. And I don't remember what it was exactly that I burned, but like...
Well, then it's worked.
Yeah, it needed to go. Onwards and upwards, my friends. Like, I got shit to do, you know? I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah, we'll see each other in like 8 more years and we'll be like, oh my god, we were so cringy back then. Hopefully. I mean, it does sound like, based on your takeaways from our other interview, that, you know, I kind of got it. Yeah, I was blown away, honestly. I was expecting it to be more cringier than it was.
Because in my head, it's like super cringe. And it's good to know that I at least had some gems in there. Like, I remember you being like so pro, you know, and me feeling like I was ruining everything. But like,
no, I'm literally drunk.
But I didn't know that. You were like so with it, you know?
I'm glad that you thought so. Look at me now.
Yeah, look at you now. So cool with your green hair. You're so cool. I want to be as cool as you.
It's a lot of pretending and overcompensating, but thank you.
I can't relate.
I still feel like the Elvish speaking homeschooler inside all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever go away. And like, there are parts of that person that I liked too, you know?
Yeah.
I was so creative and I read all the fucking time. I don't read enough now. It's hard when you're trying to survive in a capitalist landscape.
Yeah.
But I'm just really proud of us and I love talking to you and I'm just always rooting for you 100%, just lurking from the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I lurk on you a lot. And I've been off of social media for like 8 months.
Me too. Listeners of the podcast will know we never touch our social media.
Yeah.
Except to post pictures of our newest pet or whatever.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I do still check on your page every now and then, and I'm like, oh, you're so cool. You're doing great.
Thank you. So right back at ya. Yeah, with that said, if there are any like pictures or anything you want to accompany this episode, send them my way. Also, if there's any like social media you want to share.
I mean, I am going to very soon, within the next month, start doing some art markets. Very, very exciting with my best friend who does stained glass, which is freaking cool. But yeah, it's something that I've really been wanting to do for a long time, and it's a great way to tap back into the creativity that used to come so easily to me, and I'm feeling like this physical reaction as I'm preparing for these markets in my body that's excitement, and it's like, I forgot that I actually feel excited about creativity, so it's starting to like come back to me, and it's making me really, really excited. So I am not going to be spending time on social media like I did before, but I will still have some new creative stuff going up. My Instagram is at House Ghost Creative.
For all your fans out there.
All my one fan is gonna be.
We're such a huge podcast. You're about to be like inundated on all sides.
Yes.
You're gonna blow up.
It's my dream. Look out, Kardashians.
That's that'll just be the random voice clip I put at the beginning. Look out, Kardashian. Oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. I love you.
I love you too.
This was so good.
We should not wait another 6 years before doing this.
Hell no.
If you ever just need like a random guest, just let me know. Because my schedule's open and I like talking to you. And it's also really cathartic talking to you, knowing that you get it.
Every time I feel like, man, we could have gone on for like 4 more hours. There's so much lore that has to be uncovered.
Maybe we should do another one in a year.
You were supposed to start a podcast.
I did actually start a podcast. But it's gone now.
Well, shit.
Yeah, I started it over lockdown, and I actually kept it going for a couple years. I made like $1.50 off of it.
Is it still out there?
No, it's gone.
Okay.
Because I used to have a different like online presence. It was Vidamus Art, and like that's gone. I've shut all of it down.
That was the name of your episode.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It's linked to who I used to be, and it doesn't feel true or accurate. And it's also hard to pronounce and remember. So yeah, I do a lot of antique furniture restoration as well. And so I had all this like imagery in my head of, I call it like house ghost restoration. And so it would just be me in a sheet, like videoing the progress of like restoring this antique furniture, talking about like what ghosts are attached to this furniture and like talking shit about them, you know? I was like, well, I did actually grow up with a house ghost, so I should just encompass that and just make it house ghost creative. And that's just my whole everything rather than differentiating, and it's a lot easier to remember. So that's who I am moving forward in the online creative world.
I love that.
Yeah.
Also, it's very timely. We were literally talking about ghosts last episode.
I'm gonna have to listen to that one because I have so many ghost stories.
Oh my God, please, I'll have you back for a ghost episode.
I have a whole lifetime of it. Like, if this stuff was happening even back when I was like raised in that environment.
We'll have another episode. Sid converts Chris to believing in ghosts. The tables
I'm not in the business
turned.
of conversion.
All right, whatever. Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Thank you for having me back.
Of course, anytime. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
If you like what you heard, tell a friend about the podcast. You can send them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where they can listen to our entire catalog and find our newest merch. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us a voice message at speakpipe.com/picklesandvodka. My personal Instagram is at xtinajumper, and Lauren's is at Lauren3_AFH. We'll see you next week.